what does it really mean to make sense of relationship? By the way, we're live on YouTube. You can, join me on YouTube right now. Yeah, it's www.youtube.com/. Daniel Akpata. Akpata is AKPATA, Daniel Akpata, one word. And then you'll be able to join us live on YouTube. So, if you have ever experienced real pain in your life, it will almost certainly have been through a relationship that went wrong. They say sticks and stones may break, my bones, but words will never hurt me. But of course, we all know that is not true. It's not true. Harsh and hurtful words, which usually form part of the breakdown of most relationships, can penetrate deeper than anything else and can affect, the effect can stay with us a long time. It can stay with us a long time. People are jumping into the lagoon. People are slicing their wrists. People are being, suicidal. Most of all of these things, it's in the mind. In fact, the effect of harsh words and broken relationship can last a lifetime if we do not find the key to freedom. It can last a lifetime. Oh, yeah. Now, if you have ever experienced real joy in your life, the likelihood is that it will have been through a relationship. Now, we have the ability to give one another immense pleasure and greatly increase the sense of well-being in each other. We can touch, the heart of another person and be touched by them in such a way that we feel life is really worth living. Now, it's one of the greatest experiences in life. Oh, yeah. Beautiful, sweet. Now, we all long to have meaningful relationships that are satisfying and fulfilling. Now, why has friends, why is it that they seem to be the ones that get to us, hurt us so much? Now, it would interest you to know that friends are the closest to you. And that's why I say regularly that you cannot choose who gives birth to you. You cannot choose who your siblings will be. You cannot choose where you'd be born. You cannot choose who your other siblings would be. But the only thing you can choose are your friends. So if I were you, I would make sure that I'm choosing the best of the best, because it is the quality of your friends that's the same quality that they bring to bear in the relationship or friendship that you guys have. Now, we know that relationship can bring such joy and cause us such pain. Then why is it that we long for relationships to work, but they so often end in tears? Why? Now, I remember seeing a guy wearing a T-shirt with the slogan on the back, "Mankind I love. It's people I can't stand." We identify with mankind in general, but we find relationships much more difficult at a one-to-one level. Becomes pretty difficult. Now, but we all put a high value on relationship. It was reported in the press not long that a man made a vast coup on the stock exchange, making him an extremely rich man almost overnight. Now, suddenly, he realized that he could have everything he wanted. Now, and of course, his dreams could come true. So excited by this, he left the office early, went home, and shared his newfound wealth and excitement with his wife. Now, when he arrived home, he found a note on a table explaining that his wife was tired of her relationship with him and had left him for another man. The man was distraught that he went into the garage and gassed himself. He had all the money and wealth he ever desired. But that, what he really wanted was a meaningful relationship. And the moment it was not there, he was willing and ready to take his life. And he did. Okay? We live in a blame culture. Now, these are one of the reasons. Blame culture, blame game. We point fingers at other people and then we never take responsibility. It's always somebody else's fault. When did you last hear someone admit that they were wrong? When? No. They would look for some. I mean, when you ask questions like that, you hear, oh, thank you very much for that question. Actually, you don't understand what I've been through. If not that my father died at an early age, I would not be here. You will not be sitting with me. Blame. We'll look for excuses. All right. Now, have you ever tried to find out from children which one started the fight? It's the same story with adults. You hear he started it. He just Now, has any politician ever made a mistake? Apparently not. No, they will not agree. Some dude even said, I'd never taken bribe before in my life. And we know the dude that say, bros, alpha. Now, can you imagine what it would be like if everyone took responsibility for their own actions? Children, adults, and the nation? Can you imagine what would happen? Now, it has, of course, been like that since the beginning. You know, the first man, Adam, blamed Eve, and then Eve said, Eve blamed the serpent. And the serpent didn't have, legs to stand on. He blamed her. So he went on. Okay? The blame game is what we are very good at. Now, I'll share a particular story that I came across. It says that I remember one Saturday driving home, driving from where I live to a place in the country. Now, it was a lovely day and I really wanted to take my time. It happened to be the day that all the maniac drivers were out. Now, do you know those days? People were blowing their horns, trying to get past me on dangerous corners. I couldn't understand why everybody should be quite so crazy, trying to get, to somewhere so fast. Why couldn't they just enjoy the countryside and the beauty of the day? Why get so stressed about getting to your destination in double quick time? Why not be like me and enjoy the wonder of the countryside and the pleasure of the journey? Now, on the following Monday, I was driving somewhere else and I was in a mad hurry. I needed to be somewhere on time. It was one of those days when all the slow drivers were on the road. Now, do you know those days? I couldn't understand why people should drive so slowly and cause such inconvenience to people like me. I had to drive quite dangerously to get past everybody. Maybe they should be walking if they really wanted to get to, go that slowly. What on earth is the point of having a car? Of course. When I thought about this, I realized that I blamed everybody else. But actually, it all revolved around me. If I was in a hurry, everyone else was too slow. If I wanted to go too slow, everyone else was too fast. Our failure in relationship ultimately reflects back on us because we are the center of our own universe. We are the center of our own universe. Now, I'll share this story. It's called the Peanut Story. A person went to visit an elderly lady in the hospital. You know what happens? You find yourself eating, the sweets, grapes, and other things that belong to the patient as a way of passing the time. Well, this old lady had a bowl of peanuts sitting by her bed, and the friend slowly but surely walked her way through the peanuts. As they got up to leave, she said to the lady, "I'm really sorry I've eaten your entire bowl of peanuts. How selfish of me." "Don't worry," replied the old lady. "I dislike peanuts. My husband came in yesterday and brought me a bag of chocolate-coated peanuts. I love chocolate, so I just sucked off the chocolate, and when I hit the peanuts, I spat it out into the bowl. Thank you for finishing them for me. You can imagine what happened. Okay? Now, all relationships go through a series of phases. They start with an illusion. Mhm. We see something attractive in someone else. You see the babe, she's looking so fine, her skin, brown skin, and then she's looking so fine. And then if you are the type that your kind of spec is that you must have, the behind must be massive, and then the front too must be massive, and then she just have everything. You like, oh my God. And then you are looking, and you have even forgotten that you are staring. Looking has crossed to staring. You have forgotten. That picture, something attractive in someone else. That's the chocolate. Okay, that's the chocolate. Now we are drawn to another person thinking that the relationship will really work out well for us. Now, the second phase is reality. We begin to discover, as a human being with all their frailties and weaknesses, and realize that they are not as wonderful as we thought. Reality kicks in. All right. Now, the third phase is disillusionment. That is the point at which we spit out the peanuts. After, you guy meet babe, babe meets guy, before you know it, bam, he gets the cookie. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And then after getting the cookie, the babe starts to act up, or the guy starts acting up. And then he said, I don't understand. Where are we going? What's all this? That's the third phase of disillusionment. That's the point at which you spit out the peanut. Now, the world is full of spat out people, and we are all guilty of spitting. Everyone, hearing this has at some time in their lives broken a relationship because it didn't work out the way they wanted it to. You spat out someone. And all of us have felt what it is like to be spat out by another person. Of course, spat sound a bit harsh, isn't it? But in reality, that's what it is. We felt discarded, thrown away, and hurt because a relationship didn't work out. The overall experience is one of rejection. Now, when it happens to the young, the effects are often deeper and long lasting. And if you check it, there are accounts of broken relationships at international, community, and personal level. Open almost any page of newspapers, and you read up stuff. Back here, weekends, you see stuff that baffles you. Nations cannot get on. Communities are in tension, and personal relationships are in disarray. And behind the words and prints, there is a huge quantity of pain. Of course, that you don't feel the pain through the prints. You just get the facts. But for every broken human relationship, there is pain. We are all too tender not to be hurt when a relationship goes wrong. And most of the time, it does go wrong. But look back over the last 100 years. The world has known terrible suffering on an unbelievable scale, where millions and millions of people have been hurt and killed at the hands of other human beings. When you consider the international trauma of the last period of history, 2 world wars, the killing field, and it goes on. And closer home, in our own countries, place of work, families, and in our own personal relationships, peanuts have been spat out everywhere and lie discarded on the floor, often too hurt to try again. Okay? And what about work? There's workplace relationship. You arrive at a new place of work and everything seems fine. The people appear to be very nice and friendly and helpful. And, so you settle down to this new job, which you are, very pleased has worked out so well. Then, bam, reality sets in. You discover that people aren't quite what you thought they were. They are human beings with weaknesses, and they begin to annoy you. You hang around with a group over lunch and you realize the topic of conversation is the shortcomings of someone else who is not there. Now you begin to wonder, what will be said about you when you are not there? After a time, you begin to feel used, abused, mistreated. You start to complain, and eventually you leave. It wasn't your fault, of course. You defy anyone to work with that bunch of people and get on for long. Anyway, the people at your new job are quite delightful. Okay. And what about friends? Or, what about friendship? How many friendship, begin because we see something attractive in another person? After all, that is what friendship is all about, isn't it? I need someone who likes me and whose company I really enjoy. So, to start with, it all looks good and wholesome. And then reality again sets in. And because we fail to accept the good and the bad in people, the bad begins to be, highlighted more than the good. So we break the relationship off. And what about marriage? Now, here is the clearest example because it expresses the most intimate of human relationships. It's, therefore has the greatest potential for both joy and pain. Yeah. Most people marry because they are in love. They may well not yet have learned to love, but they are in love. In love to them usually means that they are sexually attracted to one another. So they make promises to each other to be together forever, in sickness and in health, till death do us part, isn't it? Those are the words, right? Now, wonderful promises, and it is right that we should make them. But when you are in love, you feel that you can do anything, but the likelihood is that love has never really been tested. Never. Now, one leading psychologist has suggested that being in love is nature's way of fooling us into marriage. And what a good thinking it is. Now, as marriage is the thing that keeps society stable, provides a secure place to bring up children and a place to discover real relationship and intimacy, but nobody said it was going to be an easy task. And that's why we say regularly here that marriage is an empty box. What you put inside of the box and how you work the things inside of the box that you placed inside of the box is what will determine how good or how sweet or how sour or how crazy your marriage will be. I remember hearing an old, couple being interviewed on TV. They had been married for over 50 years. The man was asked if he ever thought of divorcing his wife. He replied, divorce, never. Murder, often. Divorce, never. But murder, yeah, often. Now, in any marriage relationship, there is a period when people fall out of love. The couple comes to the point of reality. Now, that is, they discover that they married an inadequate human being, someone like themselves, full of difficulties and shortcomings. They have got through all the chocolate and are faced with the reality of the peanut, which may initially not seem very attractive, but it is amazing how you can become a peanut lover. Amazing. Now, there's a story of a couple on their honeymoon, the groom, took his new bride by the hand and said, "Now that we are married there, I hope you won't mind if I mention a few little defects that I have noticed about you." "Not at all," she replied. "It was those little defects that kept me from getting a better husband." Mhm. Now, it is at that point, at the point of reality, that a person has to decide whether to love. This requires a decision to move towards the other person with a sense of commitment that goes beyond whether they feel like it or not. There is a choice to stay and make it work or to leave. Of course, where there has been abuse and violence, the decision should be clearer because nobody should have to stay in that sort of relationship. But most relationships are not like that. When someone has an affair, it is because they have hit the peanuts in one relationship and they see some attractive chocolate on somebody else, and therefore it looks like this new attraction would be far more fun than the person they are with. But statistics tell us that those same people will hit the same problem as they develop that relationship, because nobody is ever good enough. And the problem which you bring into a relationship will still be there. Oh yeah, it will still be there. So when we have a massive problem with marriage breakdown in our society, we have a massive problem. We used to think that all of that divorce thing is in the UK, is in Europe, is in America. It's not right here in Africa, but as we speak, it's right here, right now. I've seen a 2 weeks marriage. I've seen a 1 day marriage. Yeah, at the reception is when they scattered everything. The husband looked at the wife at the reception. They were sitting, everybody watching. "I don't like the way your mom is behaving. Don't like the way your family is doing to my family." I say, "Me too." Just been keeping quiet. I don't like it. And the man said, "Are you mad? You talking to me like that? You realize I'm your husband?" He stood up, boka, slap. And that was how it ended. That was how it ended. It's crazy. But hey, it's happening. It is happening. We are all relational beings, but on the whole, we don't seem to be able to make relationships work. We want them to work. We know they ought to work. We want to love, to give, to sacrifice, to be kind, to be generous. We know what to do, but something always truncates it, spoils it. We say that the problem is with them, but have a sneaky feeling there may be something wrong with us. We don't seem, capable of doing what we know is right. We cause and receive hurt. The problem is that we were made tender by nature, so we find conflict incredibly painful. We put up protective walls to guard against pain, but this is not natural for us, and so a hardness of heart easily enters into our lives. We feel uncomfortable with it, but know that it is the only way to avoid future pain. Now, there is a progression. Hurt leads to anger. Anger leads to unforgiveness. Unforgiveness leads to bitterness. Bitterness leads to burial. And burying our pain very often leads to bad health, both mentally and physically. I need to take that progression again. Okay? The progression is hurt leads to anger. Anger leads to unforgiveness. Unforgiveness leads to bitterness. Bitterness leads to burial. And burying our pain very often leads to bad health, both mentally and physically. And that's why, my brother and my friend, the pain doctor himself, will always say that pain is a gift. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. How is pain a gift? It's your mind. Remember, nothing means anything except the meaning you give to it. Pain is inevitable. You can't stop it. It will come. But when you develop a certain mindset towards it, it helps you to manage pain. Everyone longs to love and be loved. We long to be loved for who we are, valued for who we are, not for what we do or even how we behave. We long to love freely. We would all love to reach out to others without fear of being hurt and without always having to protect ourselves. When we are, treated badly, we would like to respond in a good way, but so often it does not seem to come out right. So often, it doesn't come out right. It doesn't. What stops it is because over time, we have not been able to get ourselves to that place where things are settled in our minds. Many years ago, John Powell wrote a book called Why I Am Afraid to Tell You Who I Am. Why I Am Afraid to Tell You Who I Am. Now, the basis of the book was, I'm afraid to tell you who I am because if you find out who I am, you might not like me. Oh, yeah. We all long to be loved and accepted for who we are, but our experiences is rejection, and therefore we keep one another at a distance, arm's length. What is the root of the problem? Now, sometimes ago, I read an expensive book on marriage. The writer had one basic view on why marriages, got into difficulties. He considered that people, were selfish, and it's not far from the truth. And that if we could deal with the selfishness, then we could deal with the problem of relationships. Initially, I found myself rather upset at having spent lots of money just to be told I was selfish. Surely, there must be some other explanation for the reasons we all struggle in some part of our marriages. I was looking for a deep and meaningful answer that would expect, that you would expect from an expert. The trouble was, I had a feeling he was right, deep down somewhere. As I examined my own life and my own marriage at some point, I realized that nearly all the problems that we encountered were due to selfishness. So, where do we even begin to make sense of all of this? Maybe we should start with the foundations. After all, they are the most important part of any building. If they fail, everything is in trouble. I would like to suggest 4 basic areas to look at in relationship building. 4 basic areas. And that is love, acceptance, forgiveness, and serving. Now, at another time, we will continue from where we stopped. Remember, love, acceptance, forgiveness, and serving. Now, this makes it very, very important to work on yourself. Know you, understand you, and be sure that this you who is going into a relationship is a you that has been worked on. You are not the you used to be before. You are better in the area of knowledge, and then your emotions are properly taken care of. And then forgiveness is a pivotal aspect of you. So, the you that you see presently, how good is that you? See you at the other side.